com, and we are glad you're out there, and hope you will stay tuned for the next hour on the program here called What's Going On. I'm George Moss, as if you don't already know, and we're here to try to present a quality program again today, and the first day of the Democratic National Convention, and they'll start tonight at 9 o'clock. And they'll be doing their 4-day hiatus starting at 9. And then I think that the next 3 days, they have a more full schedule. I think what they're doing today is I think what they're doing today is that they're getting Biden out of the way. And there are a few other speakers, mostly they have, it's a meeting in Chicago. And I think they're waiting for the people that's going to be protesting their meeting in Chi-Town. I think they're waiting until everybody to go to bed, and then they're going to have the convention. Because I don't think this is going to be a peaceful convention. From what I've been hearing, a lot of people are going to be out there protesting. And they dug a hole for themselves in terms of this Gaza situation that's going on. And I think you have a lot of demonstrations. I would be amazed if they can get out of Chicago without some disturbance. And it's going to look very bad on TV because, really what we have here, we can call them the Democrat Party, but this is really a Communist Party meeting that they're having. And we have got to understand what they're doing in Chicago. This should be with them having convinced Biden to drop out. And it was not that they went down there and pleaded with the man. They were using an iron fist and a velvet glove. And Biden was given the ultimatum. And the ultimatum was, you are going. And if you don't, you can go. It could be two ways that you're going. One is peacefully, in which we, in fact, make sure that all of your financials are taken care of, that you're exiting with in good stead financially. Or you can go differently in terms we start calling up some of the things that you have created as baggage during the 3+ years you've been president, that we have had amnesia over for the last 3.5 years or so, which we'll be able to recall if you don't pack up and agree to leave. And under those terms, you can believe those were the terms, because Biden was saying he wasn't going anywhere. And having said that as sternly as he did, he meant to stay in the presidency because he had all of the legal cards on his side. But what do these people care about legality? Just because you have the right of way does not mean that's going to be the prevailing view. And all of the conditions were in Biden's favor, but Biden leaving shows you that it's not about legality. And we're going to look at a couple of things that's going on in this convention to show you that really this is nothing other than, a lot of people have said this, as a matter of fact, that this was a coup. And that's what it was. This was a coup d'etat, because after the terms had been set by the primaries, Biden didn't have any opposition in the primaries. There were some persons that had their names out there, but that was not anything that was serious. And there was no real challenge to his getting the nomination. Although we know that Biden was handicapped. And this is very obvious. And they knew it. They knew it. All the party members that will eventually go and ask him to step down, asking with a certain amount of command in their voice to step down. And they knew when Biden was running. In fact, who didn't know it? If you were watching any of the things that were going on, even at the point of the inauguration of Biden, on January the 20th, 2021, when they had the inauguration, they knew they could not hide, number one, that he had not earned 82 million votes. And if nobody shows up, they have a real problem, because then even the person is not that's inattentive, the drive-bys, as they were called by Rush Limbaugh. Limbaugh would say the drive-bys, meaning these people, these are the people that have the attention span of a gnat. You know, they look for sound bites, and then after the sound bites, you've lost their attention because they're not paying attention to anything that's going on in the long run. You can tell them anything, and as long as the sound bites, if it sounds like it's feasible, then that's the going rate. You can tell them, for example, that in the same election in which Donald Trump increases numbers by 12 million votes from 2016 to 2020, Trump received 12 million more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016, but won in 2016 and then lost with much more support as an incumbent president. And when have we seen that, where the incumbent president is running stronger during the second term? By the time your first term is over, you worn out your welcome. I mean, look at Truman, who had inherited the presidency after Roosevelt died, and served. Roosevelt died in 45, and Truman took over the presidency. But in running for re-election in 48, Dewey gave Truman a fit in that election, and the voters were determined to turn Truman out. They were very dissatisfied with Truman, because when you get in there and you get a record, then you got a record to run on, and people have a less idealistic view of what you're going to do when you get in office, because what you said you're going to do, you've had a chance to do it. And I listened to Kamala Harris talking about what she's going to do if she's elected. Well, you're the president right now. Joe Biden not running anything, and I'm not so sure you're running anything either. But she's talking about what she's going to do after she gets elected, and everything she says she's going to do comes out of the Communist Party playbook. If she does any of those things, it's going to be a train wreck. This idea you're going to they're even trying to say that the price at the grocery store is because of price gouging, and so she's going to put an end to the greed of the producers who are charging too much money for their products. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with government. It didn't have anything to do with them continuing to print money and backing the value of the dollar out through inflation. That's not the reason. They're price gouging. And I have to tell you something about that, because one of my majors is economics. And I have to tell you something, that price gouging is impossible in a capitalist system. Now, you can say that they're price gouging because you see the prices go up, but the capitalists don't want the prices to go up by price gouging, because if you're gouging the prices, what that does is give the other guy a chance to come into the market and create competition. And what the capitalists want to do is keep the competition low, and that's by keeping the prices low. That's in his interest to do that. And that's why the margins of profit are not as great as they could be, because if you're raising the prices, the other person want to come into the market but can't come in because you're keeping the prices competitively low, so that you're avoiding, by doing that, the competition. You're going to read. There's a very good book that Ayn Rand wrote. Very few people talk about this book because she wrote so many good works that stand out among all of the work she had. Her book called The New Intellectuals is not well read. It's a very good book. It's not one of her mammoth works. Atlas Shrugged is probably the Cadillac of her writing, and in that there's a great philosophy and so on and so forth. But there's another book that she put out that should be read. It's called Capitalism: The Unknown Ideal. And to read that book, you could this is what's that guy's name that became the chairperson of the Federal Reserve?
Greenspan.
Greenspan, the sellout. You get these positions and then they cannot remember anything. But you can read that book and you see where the government was actually coming after this aluminum company, Alcoa, and they were saying that they were involved in unfair labor practices. And what was the unfair labor practice? Keeping the prices low, so the other guys can come into the market, because if you keep the prices low, then how are they going to come in and make a profit if they're competing against someone who already has low prices? So they were penalizing Alcoa aluminum company because they were saying they were denying a competitive they had a competitive advantage because they were not raising their prices up. But they didn't want to raise their prices up, because to do that would create competition, and by keeping the prices low, they were keeping the profit margin low and not doing price gouging. It's not in the interest of capitalists to do price gouging. Just like it's not in the interest of, and not even can they do it if they had an interest in it, and that is in fact creating inflation, because inflation cannot be created by the market. I know that from the way I deal in the market. I walked by a lot of items I wanted to buy, but I was not willing to pay the price they were charging for it. And I kept watching the price over a period of time, and I also saw the product sitting on the shelf. I won't tell you the store, but I knew that they were not going to be able to sell that product at that price. And I wanted that product at that time, but I didn't want it at that price at that time. And so I just waited until the producers recognized the disadvantage they had created by the price they wanted to charge. And once they realized, of course, that the product is not moving, because what you want to do is move the product and put some other products in its place and move those products as well. But the person that is placing the product on the shelf is not going to continue to add more inventory if the inventory is not moving. And so I just waited them out and kept going to the store. And this was a clothing store, and kept waiting. And I really liked the product, the quality of the product, and so on. But I knew it was not. I knew that price was high. They were charging $30-some-odd for these shirts. And when they finally reduced the price went down to $11 per. I went and bought 5 of them, because if I had bought 2 of them, I would have been paying what I was paying for the 5. So I went and bought 5 of them and moved them, and so the product is now moving. But this price gouging, this woman is very dangerous. Kamala Harris is a very dangerous politician. These people are communists, and they want to take over the market. So now they're saying that there's price gouging, and that's why the prices have gone up on everything. Prices have gone up on every product in those stores. You go at the end of when you get to the cash register, you know, they have the smaller items. They want the last dollars out of your pocket. So you get to the cash register, up there is where all the candy is. And they try to, the market is trying to sell the product, but the currency doesn't buy anything because they have backed out the value of the currency through inflation. So what they're doing to accommodate it is that they're doing, you buy two and you get this price. Or what was that one product I was looking at the other day where I was buying some, it was, what was that product? I was buying, I won't tell you what that product was. It was at one of the grocery stores. And I was, they had this coupon. If you buy the product, you get one of the products was you buy and you get a $5 immediate rebate. The other one was that if you buy the other product, same. It was another product, but you know, they changed the name and the same stuff. But if you got that product and you got a mail-in rebate, and it was a mail-in rebate for $8. So one was $5. That's immediate. Go to cash register, get the rebate immediately. Then you go to, but if you get the other product, it was a $10 rebate. And I could have, I didn't want to wait, so. But why are those deals like that? Why are they doing that? Why are they doing? I bought some water, spring water. Now I don't drink water out of the tap. So this one store has spring water. Even at the one that has the discounted prices, they were selling spring water for the 24 pack, 16.1 ounce. They got a 24 pack of bottles at the store, at the one store I go to. They normally charge $3.99 for 24, but at $3.99 for 24, I can go to this other store and get 24 of spring water for $3.69. So you do that kind of shopping. So the product at $3.99 was sitting there not moving. So now you go to that same store and they got two of those 24 packs for $7. So now they're $3.50. Now what's going on here? Kamala Harris, the one is going to freeze the price of products and have the producer going out of business because his margin of profit is already low. And by you talking about you're going to make them produce it at your price. These are some silly people running this country. These people are silly. You're going to make the producer produce at a rate that you're going to set by fiat control. You're going to command the producer to sell at a certain price that fits what you think the price ought to be, as if you know anything about economics. You're the same people that were talking about Trump's Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. And that came right out of where? Out of your Don't get me started. That you can't even buy land in Florida. I'm talking about commercial land for that price. That Mar-a-Lago is a mansion, and so is Trump Tower, and they're gonna try to say that is worth. They know the price. They can just simply guess you're down there in New York, where real estate, because of the location of the property, you are one of the financial capitals of the United States, and they're going to tell you that this is the price of your property. They know this and have no background in the area. These are not. You can tell they're not economists, because economists know with a certainty that if you start setting prices on products by the government setting the price, that product disappears from the market. Why? Because they cannot produce it at that price. See, the government doesn't have to make a profit, because they have the right, the power, I should say, not the right. They have the power of taxation. And if they do overrun, they just simply can go into the pocket of the consumer, the taxpayer, and just simply raise the tax rates. And then another strategy they've used is that they've now found a way to raise the taxes without being detected. They're raising the taxes. That's how you back the value of the dollar out. That's the inflation aspect. But they also have found another way of doing taxes without paying a price for it, and that's to tax the unborn. Put the taxation into the future through the debt. But I have to tell you this: the market is unforgiving, and you can pay the price now, or you can pay it later. But what you've done with the taxation of the unborn, by creating what? Inflation. How do you create inflation? By simply counterfeiting the currency. Now, if you do that, you're going to jail. But the government does it with regularity, because that's how they're financing the military, financing Social Security, financing everything the government is in fact doing. If you have a debt of and this is what they admit to, if you have a debt of let's say what they say, now it's more than this, but let's say that they're now willing to admit that the national debt is $35 trillion, which is 35,000 billion dollars. Every trillion is 1,000 billion. Can you imagine what is happening to the economy in this country?
Well, I'm going to bring this up. Maybe it's like maybe it's too far of a. I do believe it's part of the disenfranchisement of voters, because I think this is like basically doing stuff. They're already slipping her in as a presumptive candidate. But we're talking about the budget, and we're also talking about the deficit and the Federal Reserve. I mean, could you elaborate a little bit of like the Federal Reserve is basically a group of individuals. We pay them for creating. We create the money. We give it to them. They set it out there. Then they charge us interest.
Right.
And we're paying these individuals interest on the money that we created. And I guess it could be debated like what gives that currency its value. Is it the labor, the labor theory of value, stuff like that. But that's all. I mean, this is so many things you could pull this together.
Yeah.
But it's all part of like there's some program that I saw that Kamala Harris is proposing. They did crunch some numbers. It was going to cost $7 trillion. And I was like, we already got, okay. Another thing is too, the Democrats are so pro-abortion. They basically want to see every child end in abortion, and every pregnancy end in abortion. Mm-hmm. So oh, if they're going to do this, how are they going to prop up this economy that they're proposing that we embrace, or these economic spending policies or whatever? I mean, I never met a group of people who are so scatterbrained in my life.
Yeah, John, they don't. Our government leaders don't know what they're doing. All they did to become government leaders, nobody asked them if they have any degrees in the areas in which they're in fact making these decisions. They got all these committees in the House and committees in the Senate. You think people that serve in those committees, let's say the Finance Committee, you think there are any financiers that are on those committees? Who are these people on the committee? These are politicians on the committees. They don't know anything about finance.
Like George McGovern said, after he got out of politics and he started going to business, he actually said, wow, some of the policies I put out there really were bad on business.
McGovern's a very good example of these stew pigeons. McGovern was, he had to admit, when he stepped down and was trying to run a business, he was saying, my goodness, he had done all these things, passed all these restraints upon commerce. That's what these regulations are. They're restraints. You let the market decide these issues, right? But no, that takes them out of the equation. So they end up making all these, putting all these tax provisions in the law and raising the price of doing business in the country. And then when business is closing up one after the other, how many businesses you think close up during this COVID nightmare that they created? How many businesses you think closed up?
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to say. They're saying this is price gouging because corporations are charging more. Well, gee, you impose things upon these businesses even though you thought there was going to come to a screeching halt, their costs and expense outlays didn't stop during this pandemic. You created the situation, and then you're wondering why they actually raising up, because they have to pay the price.
Yeah,
they have to pay for the labor. They still have to pay for the facilities. All the overhead still there. Just because you demanded because of safety issues, you guys are realizing you're creating the problem, and then you're so bewildered. Somebody else actually said, we're going to have to deal with this problem you created, and you're not going to do it, so we have to.
It was amazing that they got away with passing an anti-inflation bill. Here they are creating inflation by counterfeiting the currency, and if people don't understand that inflation is caused by government. So then they come behind their own behavior and pass a law against inflation. As if you can pass a law against inflation. You can just simply, what is it, one waving? The inflation will only be at this rate because it's commanded by law only to exist at that rate.
See, Ayn Rand's era, when she was still alive, there was actually Nixon was going through price controls and stuff. Remember that in the 70s? He was going to, Nixon was a Republican, and he advocating and got put a lot of stuff that Kamala Harris was trying to push forward to. It was disastrous then. Mm-hmm. It's like, and it took 10 years or 7, 8 years for us to get out of that problem, and that was primarily coming out of the election of Ronald Reagan, and Reagan had problems too. He wasn't the stellar person, for economics. Everybody else wants to laud him as.
No, John, they don't understand anything. These people we have to understand politicians are people that run for office to get power. Now, after they do that, they don't know what to do with the power that they have. They can't, and because they have power, they can't see that their responsibility now is to back off. You got the job, you won the election. Now back off, but they can't do that because they think that because they won the election, they got to now be seen as doing something. Everything they're doing, hurts the country. I wish what they would do when they go on vacations, they stay on vacation and not come back. The problem is when they take a vacation, they come back and then pick up what Donald Trump said something very, very funny. He said that when he goes back to Butler, Pennsylvania, he's going to pick up and say, as I was saying, because that's where they had the shooting, right? And he's going to go back and say, as I was saying, because he's going to let them know that he's picking up where he left off. Well, that's what government does. They take a vacation and they pause. They get back and start doing more of the same thing, and they do more injury. I was one thing I give you credit, Donald Trump, because one thing you understood. You're a businessman. You understood that one thing you have to do if you're going to begin to get the economy to get from being locked up is you got to go and do that which locks it up, and that's the regulations. Our economy is overregulated. It's overtaxed and overregulated. And as Leffler says, the one that has that they give him credit for the Leffler curve, he said, do you know of any example or where an economy, a country has been able to tax itself out of debt? Do you know of a single economy that's been able to do that? And of course not, because the taxation, certainly taxation through inflation, which is placing the taxes into the future, obviously that is not going to balance anything, because all that does is further imbalance that which you're trying to equalize. It cannot be equalized that way. And the printing of dollars is a way of dealing with the budgetary shortfall, because the intakes of taxes is $4 trillion. And how does that stack up against a $35 trillion debt? How does $4 trillion pay off any part of the debt? And I will tell you this as well. No amount of taxation is capable of paying anything on the principal. Nothing. When they start talking about they're going to balance the budget, how? How are you going to balance a budget that you have $4 trillion taken in taxes, and you got to override it of your economy, where your debt is 35? This is what you admit to. It's more like 100 trillion, but you admit to 35 of that. So you're admitting to $35,000 billion of debt. You know, right there, you should take Peter Schweiker's his book, one of his books called "Throw Them All Out." That's what should happen. You know, we're not even mad at these officials, but what should happen is that, given what they've done to this country, which is created a train wreck, we are on a train that's speeding down the rails. That Denzel Washington film that you saw, where that train is running and doesn't have anybody in the engine room, and that train just running on the rails, out of control. That's what they've done to the economy. That's what they've done to the country. And there is no way, quite frankly, anybody that talks about paying off the national debt, I'll tell you right now, that's a person that's out of his mind. And those persons should be the first ones that we defeated at the polls. You can't pay this debt off. And in fact, I will go one step further. I don't know if any comments go along with me on this. It's impossible to pay anything on the principal of the debt. All they can do is service the debt, and servicing the debt just means they're paying on the interest. If they're paying it off quarterly, whatever time period in which they're paying on the principal, all they can do is pay on the principal. They can't pay anything I'm sorry. All they can do is pay on the interest. That's what I should have said, the interest of the debt. They can't pay anything on the principal of the debt, because in order to get to the principal, you got to first of all, go through the interest, and the interest is eating up all the dollars, while the principal sits there continuing to accumulate more debt, more interest. And I have to tell you that the way you thank you, I appreciate it, John. What you do with debt is that you never want the debt to sit there. And the reason for that is because once you have charged the debt, let's say you charge debt on your credit card. Kamala Harris, do you understand this? The debt that you have on that card has done all the service it can do for you. Because you went to the store and charged on the card and you carried some produce or some product or some material out of the store on the credit card. Therefore, that debt has already served the needs of the person did the charging. All it can do now is serve the needs of the ones whose card you're using. And that's what they expect you to do. I see that when they send me my bill every month. I may charge $500 on my credit card. And then they send me a bill at the end of the month, and they tell me, what did they tell me in this last bill? They told me to pay $35. Okay, so I charge $500. They want me to pay $35 on it. So what are they doing? They want me to let $465 sit there to their benefit. It's already served my benefit. I charged $500 and I took out produce out of the store with the idea I had to pay something on that bill within 25. Well, they now got it down to 25 days. So they want me to pay $35 on a $500 debt. You think I paid $35 on that $500 debt? When that bill came and they put down there how much is due, $35, I sent them a check for $500. And I did that because I had I had extended my income for 30 days. And then when I paid it off within the time period in which it's due, I had used their money to expand my income for a period of time and then didn't pay anything for it. That's how you use debt. You don't use debt the way the government uses debt, where you in fact create more debt and let it sit there in the trillions of dollars. I'll tell you something. I'm ready to throw all of them out. Peter Schweiker's book, throw them all out. That's what should happen. But we're not even mad at them because we don't know, because we don't understand what they're in fact are doing in Washington.
But it's going to be the ones too that we have to follow out, and not just the elected officials, the faces we see and the voices we hear, but the people who are at the bureaucracies that we have, all those people, all those levels. There's some of those people are 3 to 4 generations deep in those kind of government jobs. And DC's been known. I mean, they're very wealthy individuals. They have extreme clout, and they're not going to go quietly into that dark night. So I mean, you're going to have a multi-level, prong approach. You're going to basically you're going to have people in the wings waiting for those jobs and who are already trained and up to speed to take them over, or you're going to have, or some of these things are going to just have to eliminate. I mean, some of these bureaus and these agencies and stuff, because we don't need all of them. We know we don't.
John, we had 4 departments when this country got started. We got 16 now, and every one is humongous. These are not small agencies. You look at any of them. Look at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You think that you look at that building and what numbers of people you think are employed there? The federal government is the largest employer. They're larger than Walmart. You know, Walmart and Walmart is, you go in Walmart now and you see wall to wall, a lot of cash registers, but you got one person at the end of that line watching all the ones that are putting their produce on the screen, and you're checking yourself out. But Walmart is a very large corporation in the United States. But And look at when you go to Walmart and look at the attachment onto it, because Sam's is attached to it, because Sam's is a co-rider on Walmart's. I mean, they're owned by the same folks. So it's a very large employer, but the government employs more people than Walmart employs. I mean, look at the number and then look at the agencies that also are pulling and draining the resources. You cannot continue to do that, because you cannot continue to blow up the debt, because at some point the currency, and every fiat currency in the history of the world, has gone down to a value of zero. All fiat currencies have done that, because you keep inflating it and taking the value out of it. And at a certain point, there is no value in the currency. You saw that in the Weimar Republic, and you see in the way of this. You saw it in that's what happened to Rome.
By the way, we have a question here from a viewer.
Good.
And ask him how he feels about Congress creating the FDA and the EPA, but then acting like they have no responsibility to oversee them. You know, like they say they're going out of hand. They're going on, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let me tell you what that's about.
Yeah, that's all showmanship, isn't it?
What they're doing, no, it's accountability. You see, the reason why you have such a bureaucracy is because the bureaucracy doesn't go before the voters every 2 to 4 years. The politicians do. The ones in the House. This is the tremendous intellect of the people in that room in Philadelphia in 1787. They weren't just sitting there drinking coffee. I mean, they were in there getting eaten up by the mosquitoes. They were in that room doing some serious business. They were in there thinking about how to fix this government so that it would not go the way of the world as all the other governments had gone. Go read the book by this freshman, Constantine Volney, Volney. Go read that book called The Ruins of Empire. Jefferson had a copy of that, an original copy of that book. He wasn't at the convention, but these people were reading these kinds of works. They had an idea of how to stop this train wreck. And they had figured it out. The problem is that they have dismissed the restraints, threw them out the window. It's what Napolitano says. The Constitution is in exile in this country right now.
It's like, I would say,
let me answer his question, John. They have. It's not that they don't have control over the bureaucracy. They created the bureaucracy. But what they did in creating it is that pass off fiduciary responsibilities, so that when the bureaucracy makes a decision, it's away from the center of power in Washington, which means, when I say center of power, I mean what you elect and what the electors do with the election. I mean, for example, you elect the president of the United States, but the president, listen to this very carefully. The president selects all of the persons in the federal government. All of those members of the Supreme Court, those 9 members are nominated by the President of the United States and confirmed by the Senate. The government has its hands on the entire operation. All of those departments, those 16 departments, which have funneled out certain responsibilities, everybody in the Congress is responsible for what they do. But they do not exercise oversight, because those agencies are doing their work and getting away with it, because it's passed off to them to do the work, so that the responsibilities cannot be identified as being owed to those persons that we elect. That's the the cynical aspect of how a system operates. This humongous government that they have created was created with the idea that it cannot be held to account. How do you hold the millions of people in our government to account? It cannot be held to account. And that's what they're trying to pass off, that it's beyond, that there are agencies that are beyond them, that they don't have any control over. You are part of the agencies. If they're saying that they cannot stop these government agencies that are doing things, let's say they're doing things abroad. Well, the framers were too smart for that one, because everything goes back in terms of the funding, and they must have funding to operate. All the funding goes back to the House of Representatives. And why did the framers put it in the House of Representatives? Because they wanted accountability immediately. The accountability is that if they do things that are untoward and they should not be doing it, the accountability is instantaneous almost, in terms of a 2-year time period where they go before the voters every 2 years. That's the people's representatives we're talking about. But here's the other caveat. The Senate was to be situated to be the representatives of the states. And their accountability was even more immediate, because they served at the pleasure of the state legislatures. And they were supposed to be the watchdogs and the eyes and ears of the state legislatures in the Senate. And these, I don't want to use any language here, but these fools in 1913 got rid of that and had the popular election of the senators the same way they have the popular election of the members of the House. Only the senators are elected statewide, where members of the House are elected by districts. The problem that I have with that, and you should have with that as well, is that in changing the way in which the election of senators take place, they did not change the terms of the senators. It's still a 6-year term, but why? If you're not representing the states, then why should they have 6 years? If you're going to elect them the same way you elect the members of the House, why don't you make the senators 2-year terms also? Well, because we don't understand what was changed and how impulsive that change was. Because to change it the way they did and make it a popular election of the senators, when the framers intended to be a whole different purpose. Now the government's out of control. Why? Because the states don't have any leverage in the Congress. You see, the separation of powers was not just in a horizontal manner, where you had the 3 branches of government horizontally inclined, so that this branch and that branch and this branch had checks and balances upon each other. But there was also a vertical check and balance involved, where the states, the creators of the federal government, were to maintain control over that which the states had in fact created, because the federal government is created by the states. I know what they're teaching out here, that they don't have any control. Control is what the Constitution established. That's why they got rid of one that didn't have the restraints. Could not. You had to have unanimity to bring about any restraints under the articles. That wasn't going to work. And they realized that in that convention very early. In fact, they went there with that understanding it could not work. Because I'm convinced, in looking at what Yates wrote, and also looking at the notes of the great lawgiver, James Madison, I am convinced they went there with the idea that this cannot work and had to be thrown out and discarded. I don't mean throughout every part of it, but throughout the parts that could not work. You cannot have unanimity in order to do anything in the government. And you cannot restrain power if you don't have the government able to check on his members. See, the thing that we have to understand about them saying, you see, here's another thing to it as well. I remember Donald Trump was saying that how terrible it would have been for him to do what they were saying in his rallies. Because they were saying, put Hillary Clinton in, they were saying, put these criminals in government in jail. And Trump was saying that how bad that would have been if he had done that. No, that would not have been bad. It's bad if you don't do it. Now they say, well, if he does it, then it sets a precedent for the person to do it. You don't understand the Constitution of the United States if you say that. Because if you have a tit for tat, where you want to do it because you want to get back at somebody, do you understand that we have an impeachment for that? If any federal officer, and not all the ones in Washington are federal officers, that's another thing we got to understand about the Constitution as well.
I just looked up something. I just interjected here. Now we mentioned 1913. Okay.
Okay.
I checked up who had the House and the Senate in 1913. Here's what I got. The Senate had a Republican majority and the House flipped into a Democrat majority. But 1913, it was Woodrow Wilson. The president was also a Democrat. So, but see, it just goes to show you both parties have allowed for, because they had to have some kind of large portion of decree to pass that amendment to allow the state to be state senators to be properly elected.
You're making a point.
Yeah.
You're making a very important point. This is not a one. This is not. This is both parties are aligned against the American people. Both parties. I was gonna say at the beginning of this conversation that you have these communists. That's what we have. Anytime you have government making the decisions, and the decision making is not in the hands of the people, government of the people. You understand that? It's not government of the politicians. They've gotten away with this at this convention. Watch and see what happens tonight at 9:00. They're gonna put Biden up there. They're gonna get him out of the way.
Have the people in the white coats take him away.
They should. But they're 3.5 years too late for that now. They should take it away on the 20th of January of 2021. They should take it away at that point.
They should probably have like big inflatable like water beds around the edge of the stage, so in case he walks off, he won't get injured too badly.
I want to see if he can get off the stage tonight when he speaks. He's speaking. They're gonna start at 9:00 tonight, because they don't have a full house. They're gonna have Biden. They're gonna have Johnson, the mayor. This guy, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's the mayor of Chicago. They're going to have the governor. I think his name is Pritzker. Going to have him. It's going to be get the folks out of the way kind of day. Obama speaks on Tuesday as they're getting more heated up. And they're going to have the vice president as a keynote on Wednesday. And they're going to the coronation of, and there's a coronation, by the way, a coronation of Kamala Harris. Because what we don't know is that once here's the point that I'm making in my writing. You see, this is not a convention. This is a coronation. Once Biden was not going to be the nominee, and the only one that had the delegates going there was Biden. Biden had something like of the 4,000 delegates, Biden had 99% of them, because he didn't have an opposition in the Democratic Party. He was going to be the nominee, although everybody in the Democratic Party, all the leadership knew the man was in fact handicapped. But once they had, thank you, John, appreciate it. Once they had gotten Biden to step down through a lot of things they did in that back room. They didn't smack him up, but they were telling him that he was leaving because there was too much baggage out there. And that baggage included Hunter Biden. And they could hold that up. I mean, these people will threaten you. They're not above cutting deals and playing hardball. And they told Biden that he was leaving. Biden didn't want to leave. They told Biden he was going. And who were the ones that told him that? Let me name the shysters. Senator Chuck Schumer, the majority leader in the Senate. He had some clout. Nancy Pelosi, who has been sidelined as a House Speaker, but she went there. And Jeffries, who is the majority leader and the House Speaker in waiting, if they ever get the majority. Hope you don't give it to them. And Jeffries went there. Hakeem Jeffries, Kamala, Nancy Pelosi, and Charles Schumer. Don't call him Chuck, because you don't know him that well. And they went there with power to tell Biden they was leaving. Now, here's what should have happened. They had a primary for Biden, and Biden was going to carry the delegates into the convention tonight. But in stepping down, you can't give those delegates away. So what should have happened tonight? What should have happened, it ain't going to happen. They should have a convention where the people on the floor, the delegates, are released from because Biden is not going to be there. So the floor is now open for debate. What they got the American people believing is that the same protocol that's in place if the president steps down for whatever reason under Amendment 25, that is stepping down, there's a protocol in place in the Constitution in which there's a process in place. I mean, the 25th Amendment normalized the amendment in the 12th Amendment, where you now have the vice president and so on and so forth, and got a certain amount of order. That's not the way it works in the convention at that level, because the bylaws in the convention operate. You may not be aware of this. I will say this about the government. The government cannot reach into, not supposed to reach into, of course the government does what it wants to do, but it can't reach into the convention process. Cannot do it. And to be honest with you, they don't want this exposed, but the primary election and stuff like that, they can't reach in there and change that. That's because, let me say this, and hope I don't get shot.
Oh, guys, you can't say shot now. I got to say pew pew because they restrict speech. Pew pew, P-U-P-E-W, I'll insert it later, okay?
Yeah, they can't. I don't want them to go pow on me. But they showed this in 2020 or 2016. They showed this. They showed that those two parties privately owned. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are private property parties. Those parties are privately owned. Now, once you get out of the primary process, then the federal laws will apply, but that's not what we are having tonight. Tonight, what we have is that those delegates have been released because Biden is not a candidate anymore, and therefore that process should be open. But guess what they're going to do tonight? They're going to act like the Constitution applies here, that Biden is out of it, so the vice president steps up. How did that happen? The vice president steps up to what? That process should be open. You know what's happening here? They'll be cheering tonight because they don't recognize what this is about. What this is about is that those 14 million people that voted for Joe Biden are being disenfranchised. And the ones doing that cheering tonight, they're being disenfranchised also.
And you know, the way I look at it, I think they have actually orchestrated this so they could be considered like an 11th hour move. And, you know, because of the desperation and stuff, because they're fully acknowledging the condition of Biden, they're going to make it look like it was just basically humanitarian. They held out so long, and they could push it through. They could push this through without too much of a whimper, you know, and that's why I see it. You know? Yeah,
John, they're not even gonna act like there's anything that went on that should not have gone on. All of this is a violation of the bylaws of the two parties. Those bylaws apply at this point. Once you get a nominee and they're running for election, then the federal laws come in. But these are the laws of those two parties. And Kamala Harris should not be involved in a coronation on Thursday. We already decided. What are they having the convention for? They've already decided. She's already chosen the vice president. And how did she choose the vice president? Who chose her to be the nominee? Nobody.
Well, they got to go through with the convention because all those Democrats from all the parts of the country got to get their hooker time on. So they got to be meeting up with the hookers in Chicago because that's what they're notorious for, man, is having the hookers around.
That's what they're doing. And that's what, in Chicago, of course. You'd be surprised of the people who be surrounding that convention, waiting for the convention to be over, and what's going to happen after that convention ends. Because it's going to end around 11:30, 12 o'clock at night.
Look at all the call girls and stuff like that. They're probably friends with
They're
Kamala
there,
Harris.
coming from all over the country.
Kamala Harris is old buddies, you know.
Yeah, and coming from all over the country, and they'll be there. And that's what that's about. One big party. But this is a coronation. This should not be a coronation of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, we should not have Kamala Harris deciding who a vice president is going to be. Who decided she could be the nominee? That wasn't decided in the convention. It's the idea that what happens in the 25th Amendment, the president's not running. Therefore, who else? What happens next? The vice president. Then the other officers, as delegated in the law, they got a procedure. That's not the procedure for this, and they're trying to act like that procedure applies in this case. This woman is being coronated. This is communism. This is not government of the people. The people voted for Biden, and Biden stepped down. So now the people have to go back to the nominating process, and that nomination process is open on the floor of the convention tonight, but it's not going to be open for that. They're going to be endorsing what's already occurred. I don't know. Really, somebody will ask them, "What are y'all meeting for the next 4 days?"
Yeah, who's the bigger threat to the alleged democracy? Well,
Yes.
this kind of move certainly shows that they're a threat to people having a choice.
Judge, look at that. Look at this. They've already decided. The 14 million voters went there in the primary and voted. You know what happened? 3 members of the Congress canceled out 14 million votes. That's a disenfranchisement of the voters, and they don't recognize that even now. They'll be cheering, waving the state flags and things like that. Don't know that the states have been totally disenfranchised by what happened. The only voice that would be heard in this process here is the voices of Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and the majority leader of the Senate, Charles Schumer, from New York, by the way. That should tell you enough right there. And everybody's going along with it, and nobody's raising any eyebrows. You know why? Because they all do it. The duopoly is involved in that. They're not going to call any attention to it because they don't want the American people in on this game here. And that's why they're trying to block you, Donald Trump, as you already know, because they understand that you're not one of the gatekeepers. You're from the outside, relying upon the American people. And if you get in there, the cartel is going to have to deal with you. And they don't want to they cannot deal with Donald Trump because Donald Trump is coming from the people on his side. And they have to stop him. And they're not through trying to stop him yet. That still is on the table. That danger is still there. Anyway, I hope I answered the question. They don't want accountability in Washington. They don't want the American people to have anything to say about how the government is operated. The government of the people, for the people, by the people, all that's out the window. They threw it out when they threw the Constitution out. We have got to get back in charge, and hopefully we are clear about what we're doing on November the 5th, because I'll tell you this, we got one more shot at this thing. If we lose November the 5th, that means Trump lose. If he lose, the country is lost. It's just like that. And we have got to understand what time it is and the stakes that are, what's at stake right now. What's at stake is everything. Everything is on the table. Okay, that's not ranting for the day. I want you to, as always, follow your dream, because if you don't follow your dream, you'll never know what's on the other side of the rainbow.